The board will now come to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Ornowitz. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Odenberg. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro. President Reed.
Here.
Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Odenberg. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Cone. 19 present. I'm sorry, 20 present.
A quorum being present, I'll ask everyone in the chambers and the galleries who is able to stand and please rise for prayer. Before we begin prayer this morning, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for all the families and the people affected by the tornado and the people who lost their lives, and also the people who lost their lives this week in the city of St. Louis. Please join me in that moment of silence. Giving all honor to God, Almighty God, source of all authority, we humbly ask guidance in our deliberations and wisdom in our conclusions. Amen. We are really lucky today to have our mayor with us to deliver the State of the City address. Join me in welcoming our mayor, Lyda Crewson, to the dais.
Thank you all. You're so nice to welcome me back so warmly. Thank you. Good morning, President Reed, aldermen, alderwomen, elected officials, invited guests, directors, and all the valuable folks who work with us here at the City of St. Louis. Thank you for inviting me to be with you today. And most importantly, thank you for your work on behalf of the residents and the businesses of our city. I'm really thrilled to be here with you today. When I got your invitation last week, I immediately said, of course, I'd love to come and be with you. And I'm proud to be your mayor at this time of such great momentum in our city. Each of you here have played a part in that momentum through your leadership, your collaboration, your legislation, and your advocacy for your residents and businesses. You have made this momentum happen, so thank you for that. Thank you. There is over $8 billion in projects either recently completed or currently under construction in the city of St. Louis. And I'll walk through just a couple of them with you as a reminder. Of course, within the last year, the new arch was reopened, $380 million renovation. Keener Plaza, Ballpark Village has a new office building, a new apartment building, and a new Live by Lowe's hotel under construction. Hotel St. Louis opened. Soldiers Memorial, right here across the street from us, with a $30 million renovation. A renovated Enterprise Center, which apparently is bringing the Blues some good luck, so we love that. Go Blues. Union Station, soon to have a 20-story tall, 200 feet, Ferris wheel, and a $190 million aquarium opening before the end of this year. And you might be interested to know it'll have 46 sharks, so look out. Fingers crossed, west of Union Station, in case you didn't notice, I was starting at the arch and walking out this way. West of Union Station, fingers crossed, maybe a soccer team. I'm not making any announcements this morning, but it looks good. Just a bit beyond there, St. Louis University's new science and engineering building. Just a little south on Grand, SSM's new $550 million hospital. City Foundry, the Armory. Cortex opened their newest building, 4240, this year. And just this morning in the paper announced the renovation of another new building with moderately priced lab space to help young businesses, early businesses, be able to do their work in that building. 6,000 people go to work every day in Cortex, and some of them get there via the new Metrolink stop that just opened this year. BJC's campus renewal, I know you have seen all of that work, and Washington University's 8 new buildings known as Campus Next. And during 2018, the city issued $1.2 billion in construction permits, almost double what it was the year before. There are cranes in the sky and construction dumpsters on the curb. I know you've noticed those as you try to park. So whether it is a new roof, a bathroom remodel, or a whole new building, I do love the sight of a construction dumpster. Dumpsters mean confidence, they mean investment, and they mean opportunity. Developments are underway in all of our neighborhoods. I think you can see the difference and you can feel the difference. A container home in Old North, the Rung for Women project in Fox Park, many renovations in Tower Grove South and Tower Grove East, a new grocery store at Page and Union, the Made Makerspace on Del Mar, Finney Place, St. Ferdinand Homes, several new projects proposed in the Ville, in Soulard, in the Grove, on Cherokee, in Fountain Park, on Euclid, Chippewa Park, the Kransberg Arts Project, Steel Coat Lofts near Choteau, and more residential in Dutchtown, in Dogtown, downtown, and to Bolivar. The Del Mar Divine Project, the On God Hotel and Grand Center, and Hotel St. Louis downtown. That's not all of the projects, just a few of the projects, and you can see they are all over our city. And of course, NGA. On December the 13th, the city turned over the 97-acre NGA site to the federal government. And in March, the federal government awarded the design-build contract to McCarthy. That means retaining 3,100 permanent jobs, 1,500 construction jobs. NGA is more than just a new $1.7 billion federal facility. It's also a geospatial technology hub. Geospatial technology is everywhere. It's on your phone, it's in your car. We use it for everything today. And it's one of St. Louis's fastest growing industry clusters. T-Rex launched Geosaurus for geospatial startups. And tech startups create jobs, attract capital, and bring talented people who create more tech firms and more jobs. Make no mistake about it, job growth is fundamental to the success of our city and to the success of our residents because it provides opportunities for them. And NGA is also the opportunity to transform neighborhoods nearby. Soon, a $20 million construction renovation of nearby Preservation Square will be underway, providing 140 new and renovated homes in the first phase. Today, we are a safer, more walkable, cleaner, and more livable city. The New York Times recently headlined us, quote, "Once quiet, now vibrant." Forbes said of St. Louis, quote, "Rebounding," and named us number 2 in the top 10 rising city for startups, and touts our cost of doing business at 8% below the national average. Inc. magazine said, "Forget Silicon Valley. The most exciting innovations happening in ag tech are in this Midwestern city," and dubbed us a turnaround city. The city's population in the 25 to 34-year-old group has gained 13%. And these young people and families are gravitating to our walkable, interesting, historic, and lovable neighborhoods because they believe, and I believe, that St. Louis is a place where you can start up, stand out, and stay. We are also an active partner with Choteau's Greenway. The Greenway aims to serve as a regional gathering place, connecting us north from Fairgrounds Park to south to Tower Grove Park, east to west. And as I know you know, we recently engaged Mass Economics to provide an in-depth analysis of our local economy and a comprehensive economic development strategy, a strategy that will lead us to productive economic development activities to drive investment and drive growth and drive our momentum. Thank you, Tom. Aldermen, thank you. That project, Mass Economics, is really just getting started, and I really look forward, and I think that you'll find when that is finished that there'll be some really good tools for all of us to use. So switching subjects. Public safety remains job 1, and job 2, and job 3. SLMPD Chief Hayden and Public Safety Director Judge Jimmy Edwards made significant progress this past year. Violent crime decreased by 15%, overall crime decreased by 6%, but if you are a victim of crime, one crime is one crime too many, and those stats do not matter. Violent crime changes the lives of families forever, and it takes a huge toll on our entire community. We are addressing violence from both the prevention side and the enforcement side. The prevention side, with more money for jobs, summer jobs, more recreation programs, social services, mediation, thanks to Carol Howard's bill and your support, intervention, more money for affordable housing, and training opportunities. And from the enforcement side, you know about Hayden's Rectangle. I think it's really a trapezoid, but you know the area. And in 2019, this year, based on data analysis, this strategy was extended to downtown and to Dutchtown Gravois Park. These areas receive more intensive attention from our special units, not by taking police officers out of your neighborhood. That intention is to curb criminal activity in those areas that most need it. The result last year in Hayden's Rectangle it was an 18% decrease in crime, including a 24% decrease in homicides, 23% drop in robberies, and a 15% decrease in aggravated assaults with a firearm. But we're not bragging. We know this is fragile, and we know the impact that crime has on families. SLMPD, as you know, is 130 police officers short of their authorized force. That has been the case more or less for the last 3 or 4 years, despite the fact that we currently today have 3 academy classes running. One will graduate in June, one will graduate in August, one will graduate in October. Over the past year, we have increased our recruiting efforts. We've increased the pay for officer by $6,000 per officer last summer. We've established a cadet program for 18 to 24-year-olds. We've implemented public service announcements. We've offered residency waivers for up to the next 50 officers. And we've hired 2 new full-time police recruiters, both privately funded. So please consider supporting Board Bill 34, which would ask voters to lift the residency requirement for all employees. We also have hundreds of vacancies in our operating departments. Expanding the pool of applicants is not a cure-all. It's not going to be the only thing we need to do. But it does remove one barrier to hiring, particularly for folks who have some experience in their field, but who might already be engaged in their community, in their neighborhood, in their schools, in their church, and be unwilling to move out of that for a job here. So I thank you for considering your support of Board Bill 34. Thank you. So in October last year, we added 2 new Fuse Corps executives to our team for 1 year. So they are also privately funded. One is establishing a criminal justice coordinating council to improve the system and the outcomes. The other is leading our effort to reform and develop alternatives to cash bail. In the last 2 years, by working at all levels of our system, the daily population in our 2 jails has been reduced from about 1,400 to about 1,100 currently. That's a reduction of 300 people. 99% of the pretrial detainees that we are holding are being held on felony charges. Earlier this year, we closed the 2nd floor of MSI. And today, repairs and renovations are underway at both facilities. With your help, we are continuing to reduce vacant buildings. Some of you may have attended the vacancy collaborative that was, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday. We have roughly 25,000 vacant parcels in the city. 17,000 of them are lots, and 7,500 are buildings. Around half of them are privately owned, and around half are owned by LRA, Land Reutilization Authority. So in partnership with many private and nonprofit agencies, and with many of you here in this room, we have significantly increased our efforts to reduce the number of vacant buildings. Nothing good happens in a vacant building. Our first approach, though, is always to renovate and reoccupy buildings. We have a very rich and beautiful built environment here in our city, and we should preserve as many buildings as possible and return them to productive use, becoming homes for families and for businesses. Over the last year, thanks to Alderman John Collins Muhammad and his nudging, I'll call it nudging, we have implemented the Dollar House program. There are, if you go on LRA's website, there are around 500 houses that you can take a look at and buy for $1. If you buy it for $1, you have about 18 months to fix it up and occupy it yourself. This is for owner occupants. And after 3 years, that house will be yours. Also, with the help of SLACO, we've implemented the Finest 15. That is a marketing effort to highlight those buildings that are in LRA's inventory that are the Finest 15 that you may want, or one of your neighbors, family members, or friends may want. Also, of course, Prop NS. This is aimed also at preserving our architecture. A program to stabilize properties. You just recently passed the board bill for that at the end of the last session. Thanks to SLACO and the Board of Aldermen for implementing that, for initiating that. And the Green Lining Fund is being launched. Don't forget Mow to Own next door. It's not about buildings, but if you have a vacant lot, LRA lot next to your building, you can mow that lot for 2 years and then own it. With the help of the Vacancy Collaborative, and with the help of MSD, and with the help of RBC, Regional Business Council Clean Sweep program, we significantly increased our efforts to demolish those vacant buildings that are too far gone to be saved. We, meaning LRA, we have owned some of those buildings 25, 30, 40 years. And living near a derelict vacant building is a major public health and a public safety issue. And as I said a minute ago, nothing good happens in a vacant building. In this year's budget that you all are considering now, we are asking for you to approve $4.5 million in demolition and deconstruction funding. That is up from $3.6 million that you approved last year, that we're working in now, and $1.6 million that was from the year before. So it is a major amount of funds. The budget before you also asks you to approve $6.6 million for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That's up from $5.3 million last year and up even more from the year before. Last year's funds were used to help create 131 new rental units and 34 for-sale homes for families in this year alone. Those are in the works now. These funds, affordable housing funds, are also used to support services for those currently experiencing homelessness and this is importantly, to help prevent homelessness. Around the end of the calendar year, we issued the Equity Indicators Report to document where we are. By the way, we're not where we want to be. But the first is to document, and that Equity Indicators Report helps us set priorities and measures progress to achieve a more equitable outcome for youth, in justice for all, and in the opportunity to thrive. And lastly, city-county combination. The research and the study that was done by Better Together over the last few years demonstrates that the fragmented government in our region does not work for many people. It works great for some, but it does not work for many people. Their research is valuable and has raised awareness. We know that communities have starkly different outcomes in life expectancy, in educational attainment, and in their opportunities. In this region, we fuss and we argue about where the next big development will go. Who should pay for the convention center expansion? And how can we cut the pie up into smaller and smaller pieces? The competition for jobs, for development, and for opportunity should not be between St. Louis and Wildwood, or Afton and Hazelwood, or Midtown and Brentwood. The real competition should be between St. Louis and Nashville, or St. Louis and Louisville, or St. Louis and Indianapolis, or Dallas, or Denver, or overseas. I'm committed to growing jobs and to growing opportunities because that helps our residents to create a better life for their families. The task force's proposal, as you know, has been withdrawn, and as I like to say, it's on pause. But this actually represents a new opportunity for us to come together, to listen and to hear, and to listen and to hear one another more, and to develop a new path forward to achieve better outcomes for our constituents, our residents, and our businesses. I look forward to working with you all on that. Thank you again for allowing me this time. I appreciate the opportunity, and I welcome the opportunity to work with each and every one of you. Thank you.
I want to just thank the mayor for coming over today and giving us her State of the City address. Let's give her one more big round of applause as she has this. Introduction of honored guests. Any introduction of honored guests? Introduction of honored guests. Alderman from the 16th.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I would like to invite a very special guest, my predecessor, the former 16th Ward Alderman and now State Representative up in Jefferson City. Representative Donna Behringer is up in the balcony today. I want to give her a round of applause.
Alderman from the 14th.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Demetrius Al Alfred from IAFF Local Firefighters 73.
Any further introductions? Any further introductions? Alderman from the 23rd.
Sure, I'd like to have as my special guest up in the balcony, Greg Meyer, and from the Carpenters Union, and I'm having
Jeff
a problem
Hans?
with- Yes, Jeff Hans. I was trying to come up with the first name, who is also a season ticket holder to the Blues. Couldn't talk the other day, and I found out he was only paying like $110, so maybe we should all become season ticket owners. Anyway, that's my guest today.
All right. Any further introductions? Any further introductions? Alderman from the 10th like to wrap us up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, we're gathered here on May 23rd. It is on this day in 1992 that Johnny Carson did his last show on The Tonight Show. But more importantly, this is National Turtle Day. And when I told my great-nephew that, he told me a turtle joke, which I must share with all of you. What do you get when you cross a turtle with a porcupine?
What?
A slowpoke.
All right. Anything further? Approval of the minutes.
Approval of the minutes, May 17th, 2019.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on approval of the minutes.
Move that we approve the minutes from the meeting.
Moved by the Alderman from the 10th, entertain seconds. Seconded by the Alderman from the 16th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Report of city officials.
Report of city officials can be found in A, B, and C of the agenda and have been placed in the alderman's mailboxes. Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for appointment and reappointment to the Forest Park Advisory Board. The appointment of Ms. Sina Dawes as the Zoo Museum District Representative who resides in the 15th Ward, replacing Karen Goring, and whose term will expire June 26, 2022. The appointment of Mr. Andre Walker as amateur sports representative who resides in the 18th Ward, replacing Barbara Murray, whose term will expire June 26, 2022. The reappointment of Mr. Stephen Abendale as the land architecture who resides in the 8th Ward and whose term will expire June 26, 2022. The reappointment of Ms. Deborah Dogen as the at-large member who resides in the 28th Ward, whose term will expire June 26, 2023. The reappointment of Ms. Ann Kasu as the lease permit holder member who resides in the 5th Ward, whose term will expire June 26, 2023. The reappointment of Mr. Thomas Milford as the community neighborhood member who resides in the 24th Ward and whose term will expire June 26, 2023. I respectfully request your approval of the appointments and reappointments. Sincerely, Lyda Cruzen, Mayor.
Alderman from the 28th, you recognize on the mayor's appointments to the Forest Park Advisory Board.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we approve the mayor's appointments to the Forest Park Advisory.
Moved by the Alderman from the 28th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Dear members of the board, I have the pleasure to submit the following individuals for reappointment to the Cherokee Limp Special Business District. The reappointment of Ms. Barbara Moore, a property owner who resides in the 9th Ward, whose term will expire December 31st, 2020. The reappointment of Ms. Cherry Elder, a property owner whose business located in the 9th Ward and whose term will expire on December 31st, 2020. I respectfully request your approval for the reappointment. Sincerely, Lyda Cruzen, Mayor.
Alderman from the 9th, you recognize on the mayor's appointment to the Cherokee Limp Special Business District.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept the mayor's reappointments to the Cherokee Limp Special Business District.
Moved by the Alderman from the 9th, entertain a second by the Alderman from the 13th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
That is the extent of report of city officials.
We will dispense with line items 7 through 10. First reading of board bills.
Board Bill 47, sponsored by Alderwoman Murphy, an ordinance prohibiting persons and entities selling or offering for sale consumer goods or services at retail in the city from refusing to accept cash as a form of payment to purchase goods and services unless otherwise provided in this ordinance. That is the extent of first reading of board bills.
Reference to committee.
To the Legislation Committee, Board Bill 47. That is the extent of reference to committee.
Second reading.
The following board bills were reported out of the Ways and Means Committee. Board Bill 43, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660, as adopted and approved by the voters on August 2nd, 1994, pursuant to Ordinance 63168, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the Treasurer of the city to deposit funds received pursuant to said sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, Account 1, appropriating $11,580,000 from the said sales tax for the period herein stated to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes, providing for the payment of such funds during the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 44, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance pertaining to the transit sales tax imposed pursuant to Section 94.660, Revised Statutes of Missouri, adopted and approved by the voters on November 4th, 1996, pursuant to Ordinance 64111, creating the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, directing the Treasurer of the city to deposit funds received pursuant to said sales tax into the City Public Transit Sales Tax Trust Fund, Account 2, appropriating $11,580,000 from the said sales tax for the period herein stated to the Bi-State Development Agency for certain purposes, providing for the payment of such funds during the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and containing a severability clause. Board Bill 45, sponsored by President Reed and Alderman Vollmer, An ordinance appropriating the sum of $21,940,000 as described and defined in Section 94.600 through 94.655 Revised Statutes of Missouri 2000, as amended for the period herein stated, which sum is hereby appropriated out of the Transportation Trust Fund to the Bi-State Development Agency for transportation purposes, and further providing the appropriation is conditional upon the Bi-State Development Agency supplying the Board of Estimate and Apportionment an annual evaluation report, further and providing that in no event shall the comptroller draw warrants on the treasurer for an amount greater than the amount of proceeds deposited into the Transportation Trust Fund during the period from July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, and containing a severability clause. That is the extent of second readings.
We dispense with line item 14, perfection consent.
Board Bill 24, sponsored by Alderman Vollmer, an ordinance to provide for the borrowing of funds in anticipation of collection of tax payments levied by the city for deposit in its general revenue fund for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2019, and remaining uncollected, and other revenues remaining to be collected and deposited into the general revenue fund for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 4, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance establishing a four-way stop sign at the intersection of Garrishy and Goodfellow, regulating all traffic traveling north, westbound, and southeastbound on Garrishy and Goodfellow, and regulating all traffic traveling northbound and southwestbound on Goodfellow at Garrishy, and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 14, committee sub, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis and Alderman Odenberg, pursuant to Ordinance 68937, and ordinance authorizing the honorary street name of Father Biondi S.J. Way, which shall begin at the intersection of Lindell and Grand and run south on Grand to the intersection of Grand and the eastbound entrance ramp to Highway 44. Board Bill 16, sponsored by Alderman Kotar, an ordinance amending ordinance number 50258, which ordinance relates in parts to the vacation of Russell from DeKalb to Second, which conditions authorizing the termination of fire lane on Russell vacation in order that Sue Lord 2nd Street or its successors and assigns may build a project on certain land located at 161 through 181 Trudeau. Board Bill 22, sponsored by Alderwoman Howard, an ordinance pertaining to parking within the 5347 Nottingham Parking District, establishing the location and restriction for curb parking in the restricted parking zone within the 5647 Nottingham Parking District, authorizing the placement of permit parking only signs within the district and prohibiting the parking within the district of any vehicle which does not display the authorized permit, containing definitions, a penalty clause, and an emergency clause. Board Bill 33, sponsored by Alderwoman Boyd, an ordinance directing the Director of Streets to make changes in the present traffic pattern controlling traffic on Thrush in the 5200 block of Thrush between Theodore and Thekla, so that as reconfigured, the traffic pattern developed and in place as a result of the changes directed by this ordinance are as follows. Namely, Thrush 5200 block traffic to flow one-way north between Theodore and Thekla. Board Bill 3, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and the Comptroller to enter into and execute the land lease agreement between the City and United States of America, Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, granting to lessees certain rights and privileges in connection with the occupancy and use of premises, containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 13, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the issuance of the City of its airport's revenue bonds, St. Louis Lambert International Airport, in an aggregated principal amount not to exceed $35 million, the Series 2019 project bonds, in one or more series as part of the $3.5 billion of bonds approved by the voters of the city in 1991 and 2003 to finance the cost of purchasing extension improvements or enlargement of the airport, reimbursement for certain prior airport capital expenditures, the funding of capitalized interest in any, and the issuance of the city of its airport revenue refunding bonds, St. Louis Lambert International Airport, in an aggregated principal amount not to exceed $100 million and containing a severability and an emergency clause. Board Bill 28, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment and authorizing and directing the Director of Airports and Comptroller to enter into and execute the assignment and assumption of interest in dual custom agreement and consent of the city agreement whereby the city consents to the assignment of the Binational Gateway Terminal, LLC, to Brownsville International Air Cargo, Inc., all of the assigners, rights, title, and interest in the dual custom agreement, AL-353, between the city and the assigner, dated January the 9th, 2015. Said assignment agreement was approved by the Airport Commission, containing a severability clause and containing an emergency clause. Board Bill 29, sponsored by Alderwoman Davis, an ordinance recommended by the Airport Commission and the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, authorizing and directing the airport to approve and execute the consent to change in ownership and control structure of the Binational Gateway Terminal, LLC, substantially in the form as set out in Attachment 1 to this ordinance, which is attached hereto and
Please hold it down so that people can hear the clerk. Madam Clerk, please continue.
which is attached hereto and incorporated herein, whereby the city consents to the change in ownership of Binational Gateway Terminal under the certain second restated and amended lease agreement, AL-094, dated February the 14th, 2019, and authorized by City Ordinance Number 70909, approved February the 11th, 2019, between the city and Binational, and containing a severability clause and an emergency clause. That is the extent of perfection consent.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion for the perfection consent calendar.
I move that we accept the perfection consent calendar, sir.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th, entertain a second on motion, seconded by the Alderwoman from the 27th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Madam Clerk, please refer the aforementioned bills that were perfected to the Rules and Engrossments Committee to be properly engrossed.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Just refer those bills to.
So noted.
We dispense with line item 16, third reading consent.
Board Bill 9, Board Bill 17, and Board Bill 20.
Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion for the third reading consent calendar.
President, I move that we adopt the consent calendar.
Third reading consent. It's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 13th. Any discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Tyus. Alderwoman Middlebrook. Alderman Bosley. Alderman Moore. Alderwoman Hubbard. Alderwoman Ingracia. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Rice. Alderman Gunther. Alderman Vollmer. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Ornowitz. Alderwoman Murphy. Alderwoman Howard. Alderwoman Green. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Todd. Alderwoman Davis. Alderwoman Spencer. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Vaccaro. Alderman Narayan. Alderman Cone. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard. Alderwoman Boyd. Alderwoman Navarro. President Reed.
Aye.
Alderman Bosley. Alderman Kotar. Alderwoman Martin. Alderman Oldenburg. Alderman Rhodey. Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Muhammad. Alderman Boyd. Alderman Cone. 21 aye votes.
By your vote, you sustain the motion of the Alderman from the 10th and 3rd read and finally pass the aforementioned bills. Third reading, report of engrossments.
We have none.
Report of enrollment.
Board Bill 9, Board Bill 17, and Board Bill 20.
All other business being suspended, the President shall in open session affix his signature hereto to the end that these may become law. Alderman from the 19th, you recognize on motion for the courtesy resolutions calendar.
Mr. President, members of the board, I move to adopt our courtesy resolution.
Been moved by the Alderman from the 19th, seconded by the Alderman from the 12th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will dispense with line items 21 and 22, miscellaneous unfinished business.
We have none.
Announcements.
Monday, May 27th, the office will be closed in honor of Memorial Day. Wednesday, May 29th, HUD will be having a meeting at 9 a.m. in the Kennedy Room. Thursday, May 30th, Health and Human Services will have a meeting at 10 a.m. in the Leisure Room. They will be discussing with Dr. Eccles on working towards goals with Health and Human Services in the city of St. Louis. Friday, May 31st, full board meeting, 10 a.m. in the chambers. That is the extent of the announcements.
Any further announcements? Alderman from the 12th?
Go ahead.
Alderman from the 1st, Alderman from the 12th.
Mr. President, members of the board, I think
first.
the clerk doesn't like me, and we served so many years together because we are going to have meetings at Tuesday at 10 a.m., the Rules Committee, unless, of course, we don't want to pass out all these lovely
No,
bills.
we'd like to do that. Mr. Clerk, Tuesday. All right, thank you. Alderman from the 12th.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. I just want to let the other alderpersons know anyone's invited to our meeting next Thursday with Dr. Eccles. We're going to be talking about working towards goals and what we can do. And then also while I'm up here, I want to wish everyone a happy and safe holiday weekend.
All right, thank you. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Madam Clerk, excuse, hold on, Alderman from the 14th.
Wish all of our veterans a happy Memorial Day, and for those of you that are families of veterans, please remember them on our holiday. You know, this isn't just the kickoff of summer. It is a solemn holiday that we should recall those that defended our freedom.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk?
And we also have Ways and Means at 10 a.m. in the Leisure Room. Wednesday, 10 a.m., Ways and Means in the Leisure Room. Thursday is 10 a.m. For Ways and Means, and they will be discussing Board Bill 1, reduction and recommendation. And also, we having a rules and engrossment, which is that Tuesday at 10 a.m. in the Congressional Room.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Alderman from the 25th, can we go to the Alderman from the 4th? I know you've been standing for it, but Alderman from the 4th?
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I appreciate everyone coming out for the 109th May Day Parade we held down on Market Street. We had Community Day on Saturday, had the Motown Review on Friday. We had a great time on Sunday, so I appreciate all you guys coming by. I didn't see you, Pam Boyd. She's my special guest today.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 25th.
Mr. President, members of the board, I just want to put on notice the members of the Park Committee. We will be having a committee hearing next week. Date and time to be determined. I'll be emailing you this afternoon to figure out a time that works well for each of you. But we have a board bill that needs to be heard, board bill number 21. That is before us, so I'll be setting up a meeting next week. So please pay attention to your emails. You'll be getting an invitation this afternoon. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Alderman from the 24th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to echo the sentiment of the Alderwoman from the 14th and just say on Monday when you're barbecuing or drinking a beer, having fun with your family, make sure to take a moment just to remember the sacrifice of those who paid the ultimate price so that we could be here doing what we're doing here today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from the 25th.
Thank you. I would be remiss if I did not mention this weekend, Saturday, May 25th, my committee woman is getting married, Lori Lamprich. She is marrying her longtime partner, Nick Finley, who works for the city as well. And I just want to wish them both a lifetime of happiness and love together and much fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further announcements? Any further announcements? Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion to excuse.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, I make a motion to excuse the Alderman from the 3rd for necessary absence and the Alderman from the 22nd. I'm not sure if this is necessary, but we'll let it go. It's a holiday weekend.
All right, it's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th. I entertain a second on that motion. Seconded by the Alderman from the 13th. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion to adjourn. Alderman from the 10th, you recognize on the motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting till the year 2075.
Okay. We're not gonna go.
All right. Then I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting until next week, the 31st. Thank you, sir.
It's been moved by the Alderman from the 10th, seconded by the Alderman from the 25th. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Stand adjourned.